All right, greetings, class, and welcome to week number 4. That is right, week number 4 of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin. And what we are going to do this week is, first of all, we're going to do a state of the course update like we do most weeks. And then after that state of the course update, I will tell you about what I would call the Googles of the databases. And those are going to be Academic Search Complete / Academic Search Premier, as well as JSTOR. And the reason why I am starting with these databases is because these are databases that are used for multiple topics. There are a lot of databases that are concentrated on a particular subject matter. For instance, you have CINAHL that's specifically for nursing, or you have Mergent that is specifically for business, or you have PsycInfo, which is specifically for psych, so forth and so on. Sports Discus specifically for exercise science and sports and those sorts of things. When you are talking about Academic Search Complete or Academic Search Premier, or if you're talking about JSTOR, these two databases have information on a variety of topics. They are basically your Googles of the library databases, and so they are good places to start when you are doing a lot of different types of retrievals of information. So we're going to start off with the state of the course update, and then I'm going to actually demo those two databases for you. But when I demo them, I want this to be clear. I am not giving a tutorial. I'm not teaching you exactly how to use the database and all of its functions. That would take longer than a check-in video is tolerated to be. Rather, what I am doing is giving you an introduction to these databases, and this will hold true throughout the semester. I'm giving you an introduction to these databases, and then also telling you things like when you would most commonly use them. Okay, so I don't want you to take these as tutorials. They're more so introductions and demos. And then if you want to actually really learn how to use and master the database, and what I would suggest is you go to YouTube or into the database or anywhere else where you can find tutorials on these databases and look at these tutorials and actually get a fuller experience of how the database works. And then you can try it on your own if it is a database you have access to, which the University of Missouri will have access to both JSTOR and Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete. I'll tell you why they're two different names in a bit, but there will be some databases that I show in this class that do not, that Mizzou will not have access to. A lot of those will be databases that are more commonly found in public libraries, and the reason for that is because I don't want this class to be too academic library centric. I worked as a public librarian for a year and a half, but most of my experience is within academic libraries. And so but I know a lot of you are going to go into public libraries, so I don't want you all to be bound to seeing a bunch of academic library stuff if your plan is to go into public libraries. And public libraries are very noble places to work. That is very noble work, and I appreciate all of you who do go into the public libraries. So with that said, let's first get into that state of the course update. Pause. Okay, so the first thing that I want to bring up is that by now you all should have done your database unassignment. I am actually not going to go through and show any of these on the video, and that's just to kind of protect you all, give you a little bit of FERPA protection there. But what I am going to say is this was, as I've said earlier, a form of peer learning. So what I want you all to do now that these are all due and have been turned in, I would like for you all to make the time, and you don't have to do it right away, anytime in the semester, anytime during the class, but I would like for you all to go in and actually review the work that your classmates did. And this is a way for you to get a snapshot and brief introduction to all of the various well, not all of the various databases, certainly not all, but to many of the databases that you will encounter in your librarian career. This is a good way to be introduced to them. So I would like for you all to, again, go ahead and review the work of your peers. If you don't do it this week, then just make sure that you do it before the class ends. There's a lot to learn, and this will teach you a lot about the various databases, okay? The next thing that I want to mention is your next assignment, when that is due, and what you will be. All right, I've actually got to, let me pause while I actually close some of these out. Okay, so if you look over, what you're going to see is virtual reference practice and paper. That is going to be due on February the 18th. So you have a little less than 2 weeks to get that completed. I am recording this on the 5th. So if you're seeing this on the 6th, then yes, a little less than 2 weeks. And if you see it after the 6th, the later you see it, the less time you have. Make sure, if you have not already done so, to go ahead and make contact with your partner. Get things scheduled and get the assignment going. Don't wait till the last minute, because people have things happen, and I would hate for you all to wait till the last minute to get something scheduled and then somebody gets sick or something, or has some emergency on the day that you're supposed to be doing things together, and from there you turn the assignment in late. Go ahead and give yourself plenty of time. I'll try to give you plenty of time. Please go ahead and give yourselves plenty of time to complete that particular assignment. And then also, what I want you all to be aware of is we do also have a looming sync session that will be toward the end of the month. It will be 2 weeks from 2 weeks from Wednesday, actually, and that's going to be on February the 21st. We will have, I believe it's, let's see, who will be joining us? Will it be Dustin or Lisa? Let's see. Hold on for one moment here, and we're going to go and, okay, hold on. Okay, yeah, so Lisa will be joining us on February the 21st, and she will talk about Wolfner Library and services to the disabled. That is a big DEI a sort of thing in our field. It's not just about race, it's not just about gender, it's not just about sexuality, it's not just about religion. Certainly one of the things that I feel we don't discuss enough is services to our disabled patrons, or differently abled patrons, whichever term you prefer. I don't have a preference, and I don't try to guide people toward one or the other. But yes, our disabled patrons, and how to best break down barriers of access for them. That is very, very important. And so that is the work that Lisa does every single day that she works. And she will have an excellent presentation on that for you all. So I'm very excited. She is very excited, and we are looking forward to having her join us in the course space. Okay, so that's the other thing that I want you all to be aware of. I am working to update the semester-long projects. I'll get them into the class space as soon as I am able to get them completely updated, and then from there, just keep going with your discussion board prompts. And yeah, that's basically the gist of it right now. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me by Canvas message, or if you reach out by email, I'll still get that way as well. So those are the things I want you all to be aware of. And now we are going to get introduced to those databases. Give me one moment. All right, so first things first, I want you all to actually be aware of Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete. I want you all to be aware that this is basically the same database, and people use those names in our field interchangeably. So a lot of times you will hear librarians say use Academic Search Complete, and you may have Academic Search Premier, or vice versa. It's pretty much the same thing. What it is Academic Search Complete is the complete version, hence the name, and then Academic Search Premier is a slightly scaled back version of the same database that provides a lot of the same information, but not all of the same information, and it is tiered a little less price-wise. But these are basically the same database. If I say Academic Search Complete and you see Academic Search Premier, please know that that is the database that I am talking about, okay? So let's go into Academic Search Premier here. And Academic Search Premier, by the way, is something that you will find at pretty much every type of library. You will find it at academic libraries, public libraries, school libraries, all sorts of libraries, because it is really that general interest database. Oh, Lord. Okay, let me pause while this is going on. Okay, so now we're in there. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why I have to record these check-in videos every single semester, as opposed to just recording them once and then just playing the same videos every single semester, is because there are always updates. And so you can't assume that the databases are going to have the same content or function the same way from semester to semester. And what I'm seeing here is that it looks like EBSCO has actually updated their logo. So I have not seen the logo look like that before, and therefore, again, that is why I have to record these every single semester. But having said that, okay, so Academic Search Premier, like I said, it is your Google of the databases. And I'm going to show you some of the basic search functions and functionality of this database right now. And again, if you want to get more experience with it, then by all means, look at some tutorials either on YouTube or within EBSCO or wherever, and also do some practice, and you will learn about the database more fully. But all right, let's go ahead and start here. And what I want to do is kind of show you all how a basic, not a basic search, but how elementary advanced search, I should say, works. The basic search is very basic and not really used all that common. And that is why, that is actually why Academic Search Premier defaults into the advanced search as opposed to the basic search. So really, when you are searching these databases, and I apologize for those of you who are familiar with database searching already, but I don't assume that everybody is. There are different skill levels in this class, different levels of library experience. Some of you have worked reference desk for 10 plus years, and some of you have never worked in a library before. And so I am a professor who is trying to cater to all of that. But yes, if you are somebody with a lot of library experience, you may already know a lot of this, but please don't assume that everybody does know what you know. And, you know, these are optional videos. So if you think you already know this, then by all means, you can cut the video off at this point. But let's say that we were just doing a search for, let's say, Donald Trump and immigration. All right. So we got two terms here, and really when you are searching these databases, one of the things that you are really trying to do is narrow the amount of returns that you are getting. So let's say I've got these two returns right here. I've got these two search terms right here, Donald Trump and immigration. And actually, I was expecting a lot more to show up than what has shown up here. So I've only got about 4,400 results. That's actually not a lot, but that is still, it's a lot, but it's not a lot. You can have like searches with a million things, but also you don't want to go through 4,000 plus items, okay? So how do we narrow this, okay? And when the situation calls for narrowing it, sometimes it will not, but in this case, perhaps it does. Perhaps I'm dealing with an undergrad student who is just doing some sort of paper on Donald Trump and immigration. And so they just need, you know, maybe 10 basic sources. They don't need the heavy duty stuff, right? So how do we narrow this down? Well, first of all, you are defaulting into a keyword search here. And so anything that mentions Donald Trump and immigration is going to show up here, okay? And it means that those things aren't necessarily about Donald Trump and immigration. They just happen to mention Donald Trump and immigration. Well, first of all, one way you can narrow results is you can do like you probably do in Google and put some quotation marks around the search term if it's a name like that or if it's multiple words. So let's see if we get fewer results and more narrow results if we select Donald Trump and immigration with quotations around Donald Trump. All right, so that did narrow it a little bit. We went from about 4,400 to about 4,100, so we eliminated about 300 results. But let's say that, hey, we are still over 5,000, over 4,000, and that is still way too much to deal with. What can we do from here? Well, one of the helpful things that you can do is you can play around with these again. Now, these are fields that basically allow you to determine what type of information the database is going to pull back. So if you leave this blank, if you leave it at select the field, then it's a keyword search. And if this stuff is mentioned anywhere in the article, then it's going to return. But let's say you actually wanted things that were about immigration and Donald Trump. Okay. What you could do is you could change these to subject terms and see what happens. And you have a lot of other options as well. You can make sure that things, for instance, have Trump or immigration in the title. Things could be written by Donald Trump. those sorts of things. But let's go ahead and use subject terms for the interest of time here. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, so that is not what we want. And I have told you all before, these searches are not linear, so please keep that in mind. It's probably actually the quotation marks that is throwing this off. So we can go ahead and take the quotation marks off. And now you have sliced it from 4,100 to 2,400. So as you can see, there are a lot fewer here, but there are other things that we can do. So check this out. Let's say that you are specifically looking for the way that Donald Trump is written or is cataloged within the database. Well, here's what you can do. So let's say, so you see subjects here, right? In your list of results, you're going to see subjects, and you see immigration law, immigrants, United States Department of Justice, and then you see Trump, Donald. So here is what you can do if you want to search by the proper, what they call controlled vocabulary. And I know that controlled vocabulary is mentioned somewhere in your book, but controlled vocabulary basically allows you to take a bunch of things, a bunch of different terms, and like Donald Trump could show up several different ways potentially. It could be President Trump, it could be Donald Trump, it could be former President Donald Trump, it could be Donald J. Trump, so forth and so on. Let's put some limits on this. Let's put some boundaries on it. So what you can do is actually come here and people will still treat the same way as the subject term. So you can have Donald Trump, and you can actually just click this. Now, you are at this point back up to 56,000 results, but remember, we've got to add that immigration back in. So we're going to change this to subject term, add immigration back in, and do a new search. That PE, by the way, stands for people, so you see that there. If you're doing the subject term is SU, and so if you click that, it would have done SU, immigration, or something like that. When you have a people term, it's going to do that PE, Donald Trump, there. All right, and you actually are still looking at that same 2425 number, but that's okay. This is stuff that is actually cataloged with the proper controlled vocabulary for Donald Trump, which includes his year of birth, and not yet a year of death. So how do you narrow this even further? Because you do want to narrow, if you are dealing with undergrads in particular, or if you're dealing with K-12 students or something like that. Now, if you're dealing with like graduate students, master's or PhD students, a lot of times they need exhaustive searches, so they need it all. So if you run into something like that, then you wouldn't do all this narrowing. You would go ahead and let it be. But let's say that you would go ahead and allow them to search all the results, or narrow it however they want. But they still, if they're writing a master's thesis or a doctoral dissertation, they still need a lot of results. Anyhow, let's go ahead and see other ways that if we are dealing with an undergrad who just needs 10 sources, let's see what else we can do to narrow and make sure that we don't have too much going on here. First, let's say that they are looking for the most up-to-date information. So let's say that they only want things from the last 5 years. Well, here to the left is where you will see various ways to limit your results. And so what I'm going to do is come over and limit to the last 5 years. And you can do it either here or here. I'm just going to do it here, because it's simple. And now in the last 5 years, and now we've gone from 2,500 results to 647 results. So that knocked it down quite a bit. Now, let's say that we are also dealing with an undergrad student who wants everything in the full text in the database. They're not going to use Journal Finder. They're not going to use Interlibrary Loan. A lot of times your undergrad students, particularly freshmen and sophomores, aren't interested in that sort of thing when they're doing their general studies work. So what you can do is you can, if they're not wanting to go outside of the database and they want the full text to be there in the database, what you can do is go to full text and click this. And now we have gone from over 600 things to roughly 226 things. things, okay? And everything that you see here, you have the full text right here in the database that can be clicked on. Now, let's say that finally the undergrad remembers, oh, these things have to come from academic journals. And so you can come over here to source type, and you can limit to academic journals, and you're going to end up with 49. We already have the number there, okay? And so now you've got 49 results. And so for an undergrad student who's looking for 10 sources, 49 sources is a good way for them to kind of kick off what they're doing and go through. And then if they don't get everything they need from here, then they can add up more still further, okay? But let's also point out a few other things. First of all, you can actually save and share your list of results if you need to. So there are permalinks in order to do that. If you create an account with EBSCO, then you can also a lot of times just set up folders for yourself and that sort of thing. If you want to learn more about that, then please go ahead and find some tutorials, but that's out of the purview for what I'm doing, trying to keep this video not short, but still also not hours upon hours. All right, and then also a lot of times students may want the newest stuff first. So this will default into relevance, but you can also you can make it show you the newest things first and then going back to the old things in a reverse chronological order. Okay, so the newest thing is actually still something from last year, but that's because academic journals, they tend to operate on a much slower timeline than, than these other source types. But we're going to go back to relevance. And then here's what I want you all to see. All right, so now that we're back in relevance, if we click here. So this is your catalog record. And so what you may want to do before actually accessing that full text, because especially with academic journals, things can be very, very long. Oh, that is very long. So that's a good example. This is 56 pages long, right? So you don't want to read all that. Certainly your undergrad doesn't want to read all that and then determine, oh, wait, that is more than I wanted to know, or it's not helping me. What you can do is use the abstract to determine whether or not this is an article that is going to be useful for you. And the abstract is generally a 1 to 3 paragraph summary of the contents of the article. So the abstract here, and by the way, you can also search for terms within the abstract, and if you wanted to do that, and that comes in handy as well because you see which terms are most important to the author or the abstract creator based on just based on what terminology is there. But let's say that you come to this abstract and you decide this is something you want. First of all, if you wanted to just look at the full text, then you could just click the full text button. That is not difficult as far as understanding. So you can click that full text button and come on. Let me pause while it's load. Okay, that took a ridiculously long time to load, so I'm very glad that I paused that. But here you have the full text in PDF format. And so, yeah, you can do what you would do with that full text in PDF format, and that includes if you needed to save or something like that, you would be able to do that. Now, I am going to go back to the detailed record from this full text to show you a few other things. So let me move myself here. Some other things that you want to be aware of are these things over here to the right, okay? Now, you do have a lot of pertinent information, by the way, in your detailed record. This is all the information you should need in order to generate a citation. Authors, the journal that it came out of, this is your article title, but this is your journal title, the Emory Law Journal, and then you have the date, volume, issue, pages, so forth and so on. Subject terms, abstract, ISSN if you need it, and accession number, okay? But you also have some options over here, so if you're trying to, save these things for later, if you're putting something together for yourself, a source list for yourself or for your patron if they're doing it, or something like that, then there are ways that you can save. First of all, you can just click save, and you will be able to save either an HTML detailed record, or you can go to the PDF and just save the PDF if it's something that's full text as PDF as opposed to full text as HTML. You can also email things to yourself. I used to do that back when I was in master's school. and you can print out. And then certainly permalinks are always very useful. So if you need to, a permalink will not change or should not change under normal circumstances, I would say. So if you're just creating like a Word document with a rundown of links to articles that you need, then you can copy and paste these permalinks in, and that can be useful as well. The last thing that I want to show you from here right now is on this detailed record, that is that the citation is actually not reliable. Now, sometimes they're actually done correctly when I try to show this, but please know that these citations that are generated within EBSCO as well as ProQuest and Gale, the generated citations are only accurate about 80% of the time. They're only right about 80% of the time. That may sound good, but that means that yes, if you have something that if you wrote a paper and you had 10 sources in it and you just copied and pasted from these citation examples generated in the database, there's a good chance that at least 2 of them are wrong. Probably 2 to 3 of them or 1 to 3 of them are wrong. So you should not just blindly trust what is going on within your citation generators here, okay? Now with this, it is wrong. So again, this is why you need to pay attention and know what you're doing here. If you watched my check-in video from last week about APA, then you know that adversaries should be lowercase tier, as should targeting, as should immigrants, as should rights, as should movement, as should post, but Trump would still be capitalized, okay? So this citation is wrong, and again, they're wrong about 20% of the time, so you can't just blindly trust these, okay? And that's something that you should relay to your students as well. If you copy and paste them, that's a starting point, but you should always double check them, okay? And even if you are using a citation software like Zotero, still double check them. Zotero is not always right either. And if you copy and paste something out of Zotero and it's wrong, I am going to mark you down, and then I am going to remind you that you need to double check even your Zotero things. Then the last thing that I want to go over here in Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete before we go over to JSTOR is just that I want to make sure that you all know that Boolean logic is also something that comes into effect with this database. So if you were let's actually do a new search here. Let's clear. Let's say that you were looking for, actually I'm going to show you 2 more things really quick. So let's say that you were looking for, let me think of something. Okay, a crude example, but what came to my mind at the moment. Let's say you were looking for guns and firearms. But let's say that once you thought about this, you were like, guns and firearms, that would limit me to things that specifically mention both. But let's say you are trying to find either or. You can change the and to an or if you were looking for guns, not firearms, for some reason, you could change it to not, but we're going to go to or. And so I'm going to actually do the search for and, so you can see how many results come up, 1,000. And then you can see the or, and you'll see that it will broaden this greatly. You will go from 1,000 to 5,000. All right. Now, the last thing that I want to let you all know is that you can use truncation symbols, and those can also be very useful. So let's say that you were looking for, let's say, a root word. Okay, so this example isn't going to show too well probably, but I'm going to try it out. Let's say that you were looking for stuff on baking or bakers or bakeries and all of this thing. What you can do is you can actually take, the truncation symbol would allow you to take the root word, which is bake, and then put a little asterisk behind it. And if you did this, this would not only search for bake, it would also search for bakery, it would search for baker, and several other words that have bake as the root word, okay? And so you can do that, and if you put that truncation symbol there, then you're going to get 7,000 results. And if I take the truncation symbol off, it's probably going to come up with significantly fewer. Not too many fewer, but significantly fewer. So let's try this. Okay, actually that was a lot fewer. So what putting a truncation symbol again does is it searches for multiple words at the same time. So, and I know that baker as a name isn't really what we're looking for, but yeah, bakery, bakeries, plural, baker, so forth and so on. All of these things, it would look for at the same time, and that way you would not have to keep going bake or bakery or baker, so forth and so on. You can just use the root word, use that truncation symbol, and go from there. Okay, and that is all we are going to talk about with Academic Search Premier. Let's go ahead and go into JSTOR. I am going to pause. Okay, and I hope you sped me up. This video has been going on for a while now. But we are going to go ahead and look at JSTOR very, very quickly. The search functions actually work very similar in JSTOR to how they work in Academic Search Complete, even though the interface looks different. So I am not going to actually go through all of that stuff in JSTOR the way that I just did with Academic Search Complete. I'm just going to show you how JSTOR is, the basics of how JSTOR is different. And really the basics of how JSTOR is different is that JSTOR does focus on really, really old stuff. It's basically a dump for lots and lots of old content, okay? That is what JSTOR is. That's what JSTOR is about. Excuse me, that is what JSTOR is about. And I am just going to do another advanced search just to kind of show you all that JSTOR actually goes way, way back. JSTOR can go all the way back. Even, I think I came across something that was written in the 1400s in JSTOR. Most things, of course, aren't going to be that old, but new content is actually kind of lacking in JSTOR. Most content within JSTOR is at least 5 years old. So that's something that you all are going to want to keep in mind. If you're looking for recent stuff, JSTOR is not the place to go because JSTOR is sort of a dump for a lot of older things. And another thing that I want you all to realize, and you're going to see it as I do a demonstration search here, JSTOR also is, excuse me, JSTOR is also great in that it creates a long list of stuff for you. You will get a lot of results within JSTOR with a search, but JSTOR's search function is not nearly as powerful as what you're going to see in EBSCO. So EBSCO, you can really narrow down your search to get really, really specific stuff that you want. JSTOR is going to bring you a lot of useless results, unfortunately. So you have to be really patient with JSTOR. But at the same time, if you, again, are trying to build a results list very, very quickly, then JSTOR can, like if you're trying to build a really fast bibliography, JSTOR is brilliant for that. Let's not start with immigration and Donald Trump this time. Let's do United States and let's do Washington. I know those are like really far out things that are probably going to bring back a lot of stuff, but I also want this to bring you back stuff that is older so you can see that stuff gets really, really old when you were dealing with this database. As you can see, I said it was a dump. A million things, over a million things. So there's a lot going on here. And you can also, if I did oldest first, and then we're going to see something pretty old here, most likely. I don't know how old that is. Hold on, let me see if I can find. I'm going to pause while I try to find out how old that is. 1884. So there's stuff that's older than that, don't get me wrong, but still 1884, you're going pretty far back, okay? All right, so I want you all to be aware of that. But what you can do, again, you can narrow in the same way as that you narrow your results with Academic Search Premier. But another thing that is very useful with this, you've got the source type and document type and all of that. But what becomes very, very useful here is that you can actually narrow your databases, your journals by subject as well. So let's say that you're looking for Washington and you're looking for United States, but you want it under the purview of African American Studies, and you only want African American Studies journals. So let's say you were, for instance, doing a report on Washington slaves or something like that. What you can do is you can click the African American Studies, and that takes you all the way down from over 1 million to 11,900. And so what you've got here is going to be stuff that is specifically out of African American Studies journals. And so this would be useful, for instance, if somebody were, again, trying to make a report about Washington slaves or something like that. And then, of course, you could add slave as a search term in there, and that will help narrow even more. But aside from that, this is really just the same. It's very similar search logic to what you were doing in Academic Search Premier. So there's no need to belabor this beyond this point, really, especially since we are coming up on 40 minutes. So with all that said, I am Dr. Jace, and when you are doing general searches, especially for undergrad students, Academic Search Premier is a good starting place. All right, I will see you all next week with another check-in video. And again, I am employed by the state of Missouri, so go Chiefs. All right, take care.